Hello and welcome to Chapter 19 of Robert Anton Wilson's Prometheus Rising. Chapter 19 Prometheus Rising. We are extending ourselves in space and time not because of capitalism or socialism, but in spite of them. The right left capitalist socialist establishments are psychologically unprepared for our emerging situation in time space. FM Esfandiary, Upwingers. According to Patanjali, there are seven limbs to yoga, or as we would say, seven steps or stages. The first is asana, which consists of holding a single posture, usually sitting, for prolonged periods of time. This is an attempt, in our terminology, to stabilize the biosurvival circuit by drowning it in monotony. You sit and sit and sit and sit. Eventually, an internal peace is reached, which signifies the atrophying of all background levels of unconscious or unnoticed biosurvival anxiety. In other schools, since asana is so monotonous and slow working, and because war, Second Circuit mammalian struggles over territory, so common among domesticated primates, an alternative method of stabilizing the biosurvival circuit is used: martial arts. Aikido, judo, karate, etc. All emerged from yoga-like mystic schools as biosurvival reprogrammers. The second step in classical yoga, according to Patanjali, is pranayama. We have already commented on the efficiency of this breathing technique in quieting and mellowing out second circuit emotional programs. It will already be seen that yoga, like brainwashing, begins from the bottom up. Work on the more primitive and older circuits first. The third step in yoga is dharana or mantra. Dharana consists of concentrating on a single image, such as a vividly imagined red triangle, and ruthlessly pushing aside any other images, verbalizations, or impressions that cross the mind's screen. In practice, this is beyond the powers of most students, so the majority of yoga teachers substitute mantra, which is a concentration by repetition on a single sentence, usually nonsensical, such as Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, or Tat Satam, or whatever. Either practice, dharana or mantra, stops the third circuit internal monologue, if persisted in for long enough periods each day. The Western mystical equivalent is Kabbalah, the most complicated Jewish joke ever invented. Briefly, Kabbalah exhausts the third semantic circuit by setting it to solve intractable numerological and verbal problems. The Far Eastern equivalent is the Zen koan, which serves the same function in a less maniacally systematic way than Kabbalah. In other words, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Zen koans are always combined with zazen, sitting zen, which combines the first circuit clearing asana with second circuit mellowing breathing counting, a weaker pranayama. When the student has acquired sufficient detachment from first circuit anxiety, second circuit emotions, and third circuit reality maps by way of asana, pranayama, and dharana or mantra, Patanjali recommends the practice of yama. This includes, but is not limited to, celibacy. The ultimate of yama is to lose all interest in both social and sexual aspects of the fourth circuit, to cease to care at all about family, tribal, or societal matters. This is accomplished by self-denial, which is easier for those skilled in asana, pranayama, and dharana, but still requires intense determination. Some take a shortcut at this point, discovered after Patanjali or not known to him, by having themselves locked up in caves. Such isolation, as indicated earlier, helps vastly in bleaching out all four hominid circuits. An alternative for those not attracted to either celibacy or becoming hermits is Tantra. Invented in northern India around the time of Patanjali, this simply transmutes the fourth circuit by ceremonial, psychological, and magic, self-hypnotic, explosion of the prolonged sexual act into fifth circuit neurosomatic rapture. For those following the orthodox path of Patanjali, the fifth circuit is imprinted by niyama, which signifies, hold on, super control or no control being the paradoxical state of being spontaneous deliberately. You cannot be taught niyama, you can only learn it by personal experience. We hypothesize that the bioenergies have to discharge somewhere, and then when one has driven them out of the first circuit by asana, out of the second circuit by pranayama, out of the third circuit by dharana or mantra, and out of the fourth circuit by yama, they are driven explosively upward into the fifth circuit neurosomatic illumination. The sixth step in yoga, according to Patanjali, is dhyana, which means meditation only in the roughest way. Dhyana actually means union with the object on the mind screen, i.e., realization of the total meaning of the proposition that mind and its contents are functionally identical, opening the metaprogramming circuit. One can make dhyana on anything. Yogis talk of making dhyana on a tree or a dog, just as Don Juan Matus, the Mexican shaman, talks of becoming one with a coyote or a star in the books of Castaneda. The seventh step in yoga is samadhi, from sam, union, cognitive of Greek sin, and adis, the Lord, cognate, Hebrew Adonai, Greek Adonis. Here Patanjali and his successors are in violent dispute, with some claiming there is only one samadhi, while others claiming two or three or many. Since this corresponds with the opening and imprinting of the neurogenetic circuit, we must opt for the opinion that there are many samadhi, depending on which or how many of the godly archetypes of the genetic archives are imprinted. Catholic mystics make samadhi on the Virgin, Sufis on Allah, Aleister Crowley on Pan, etc. And above all this, the Eighth Circuit Cosmic Information Network can also be imprinted, making union not just with all sentient beings, but some emblematic archetype of the DNA master program. But with the inorganic universe as well, it was from this second order or metaphysiological samadhi that Gandhi said, God is in the rock too, in the rock. And pantheists of all sorts in all traditions emphatically agree with Canadian psychiatrist R.M. Buck, who said after his own Eighth Circuit samadhi that the universe is not a dead machine, but a living presence. This planet is, to put the matter baldly, populated and largely controlled by domesticated primates who are not in all respects reasonable men and women. Voltaire may have been exaggerating when he said that to understand the mathematical meaning of infinity, consider the extent of human stupidity. But the situation is almost that bad. Millions have been murdered by stupid leaders or stupid mobs for stupid reasons in every century. And the bizarre, accidentally imprinted reality tunnels which make this possible continue to rule us and robotize us. Nor is stupidity the exclusive possession of one group or another. You do not need a vacation for it as you do for the priesthood. It seems to be a contagious you do not need a vocation for it as you do for the priesthood. It seems to be a contagious socio-semantic disturbance which afflicts all of us at one time or another. Notorious examples can be found in the lives of the great. As we have already mentioned, an exact measurement of the extent of stupidity among the learned is provided by the fact that every scientific revolution takes one generation. Elderly scientists hardly ever accept a new theory, however good it is, and the revolution is only completed when the second generation, free of the old imprints with vulnerable neurons, imprints the new reality map. But if science, the paradigm of rationality, is infested with enough stupidity to cause this general one-generation time lag, what can we say of politics, economics, and religion? Time lags of thousands of years seem to be normal in these areas. Indeed, it was through contemplation of religious history that Voltaire was led to his conclusion that human stupidity approximates to the infinite. The study of politics, is that better? I don't know if I was too close and this out. The study of politics is hardly more inspiring. Let us just surmise that matter by saying that stupidity has murdered and imprisoned more geniuses, and more ordinary people, burned more books, slaughtered more populations, and blocked progress more effectively than any other force in history. It may be no exaggeration to say that stupidity has killed more people than all the diseases known to medicine and psychiatry. Intelligence is the capacity to receive, decode, and transmit information efficiently. Stupidity is the blockage of this process at any point. Bigotry, ideologies, etc., block the ability to receive robotic reality tunnels, block the ability to decode or integrate new signals. Censorship blocks transmission. If intelligence could be increased, obviously solutions could be found more quickly to the various doomsday scenarios threatening us. If each scientist working on the energy resource problem could double or triple his or her intelligence, work that would require 20 years might be done in 6. If human stupidity in general decreased, there would be less opposition to original thinking and new approaches to our old problems, less censorship, and less bigotry. If stupidity decreased, less money would be wasted on vast, organized imbecilities such as the arms race, and more would be available for life-enhancing projects. There is nothing rationally desirable that cannot be achieved sooner if rationality itself increases. This is virtually a tautology, but we must consider the corollary. Work to achieve intelligence intensification is work to achieve all our other sane and worthwhile goals. Maurice Nicoll, physician, psychiatrist, student of Jung, Gurdjieff, and esoteric Christianity, wrote that the only purpose in work on consciousness is to decrease the amount of violence in the world. This public health problem, number one, in the nuclear age, the age of overkill. This is public health problem number one in the nuclear age, the age of overkill. We are not talking about mere increase in linear IQ, third circuit semantic cleverness. We are talking of also the kinds of right brain intelligence that Nicoll required from Jungian neurogenetic research and Gurdjieff's metaprogramming techniques. We are talking of, say, Beethoven's intelligence, which so disturbed Lenin, who could not bear to listen to the Appassionata, Sonata 23, because it made him want to weep and pat people on the head, and we mustn't pat them on the head. We must hit them on the head, hit them hard and make them obey. More of Beethoven's intelligence is needed, desperately, to create a signal that the current Lenins cannot ignore, that will make them weep and stop hitting heads. We need more mentions, less munitions. We need more mentations, less munitions. The Second Circuit mammalian political games are a million years obsolete. Dr. Nathan Klein has predicted that soon we will have drugs to improve memory, drugs to erase implanted memories, drugs to increase or decrease any emotion, drugs to prolong or shorten childhood, etc. It takes no great imagination to foresee that such chemicals will allow us greater control over our neurotunnel realities than ever before. Obviously, people will use and abuse these potions in many ways, but the most intelligent will use them in the most intelligent way, namely to increase and intensify their intelligence in every direction possible on our spectrum of 8 circuits. Chiefly, they will use them to increase neurological freedom to debug and reprogram obsolete reality maps, to generally expand consciousness and sensitivity to signals and information. The potential for neurological revolution, planetary intelligence intensification, should be quite clear to anyone who has even a slight knowledge of so primitive a psychedelic as LSD. One of the least known facts about the LSD research in the 1960s was the longest single research project with LSD at Spring Grove Hospital, Maryland, showed an average 10% increase in linear IQ alone, as well as the metaprogramming vistas and neurogenetic awakenings popularized by the outlaw LSD cultures and its gurus. And there is a direct feedback loop between neuropharmacology and other brain sciences. As William Burroughs says, anything that can be done chemically can be done by other means. Yoga plus biofeedback produces detachment from old imprints quicker than yoga alone. Hypnotism and mind drugs produce synergistically more than either produces without the other. John Lilly has duplicated LSD effects in his isolation tanks, etc. It is commonplace for alarmists to warn us that the full armory of synergistically interacting neurosciences, now evolving, will allow unscrupulous tyrants to brainwash us with more totally than ever before. We need to realize that the same technology wisely used by intelligent men and women can free us from every form of neurotic and irrational rigidity to dial and focus our nervous systems as easily as we dial or focus our TV, turning any channel or circuit off and on as we choose. This is what metaprogramming cybernetic consciousness means. Why be depressed when you can be happy? Dumb when you can be smart? Agitated when you can be tranquil? Obviously, most people are depressed, dumb, and agitated most of the time because they lack the tools to repair and correct damaged, defective circuits in their nervous system. We are acquiring the tools, and this intelligence intensification has the pleasure principle to fuel it. That is, the more internal freedom you achieve, the more you want. It is more fun to be happy than sad, more enjoyable to choose your emotions than have them inflicted upon you by mechanical glandular processes, more pleasurable to solve your problems than to be stuck in them forever. In brief, intelligence intensification means intelligence studying intelligence, I squared. And the first thing discovered by intelligence studying intelligence, the brain studying the brain, metaprogramming, is that the more types of intelligence you have, the more fun it is to try to develop even more subtle, sensitive, futique levels of awareness, higher intelligence still. In summary, intelligence intensification is desirable because there is not a single problem confronting humanity that is not either caused or considerably worsened by the prevailing stupidity, insensitivity of the species. Badly wired robots bumping into and maiming and killing each other. Intelligence intensification is attainable because modern advances in neuroscience are showing us how to alter any imprinted, conditioned, or learned reflex that previously restricted us. Intelligence intensification is hedonic because the more freedom and consciousness you achieve, the more you want. The less willing you are to slip back to dumb, blind, mechanistic circuits. Intelligence intensification can accelerate our progress towards abolition of war and poverty, find cures for cancer and schizophrenia, achieve space migration and life extension, giving us space enough and time enough to achieve even more cosmic levels of awareness, or accomplish any other worthwhile goals. Like death and poverty, stupidity has been around so long that people cannot imagine human life without it, but it is rapidly becoming obsolete. However, many special interest groups, intelligence agencies, so-called advertisers, tyrants, clergy, etc., may profit from stupidity. Humanity as a whole will profit more for its abolition. Approximately 50% of the human race is not evolved fully into the third circuit yet. That is, although they can exchange primitive signals and handle primitive artifacts, they are still mostly operating on the mammalian emotional circuit and the pre-mammalian biosurvival circuit. Newt Gingrich is their current leader in the United States. Third circuit types cannot understand this and regard it as a sinister, but it is simple mammalian herd behavior. Gingrich is the typical primate leader. The noises he makes, which appear meaningless to the Third Circuit rationalist, are urgently meaningful to the territorial, emotional, patriotic minds of the majority of primates. Another 20% are responsible, intelligent adults with fully developed third and fourth circuits. They spend most of their time worrying because the predominantly primate parameters of human society seem absurd, immoral, and increasingly dangerous to them. Another 20% are neurosomatic adepts. Fourth Circuit moralists denounce them as mystics, space cases, nuts, the me generation, irresponsible hedonists, etc. Most of the Fifth Circuit adepts, Aquarian conspirators, have learned Joyce's arts of silence, exile, cunning. They are invisible. Others have turned their talents to faith healing or other occult gimmicks of that sort, and very carefully do not tell their clients that the local ideology, morality, and reality tunnel is what made them ill in the first place. They give them good energy and sensibly avoid conflict with the moral ideological authorities. Another 5% have neurogenetic consciousness and function as evolutionary agents, servants of the life force in Shaw's terminology. Their god is Pan, life. Their goal is immortality. Another 3% have mastered the metaprogramming circuit and make up what Gurdjieff called the conscious circle of humanity. They are Freemasons, in the original meaning of that debased term, co-creators of future realities. Only 2% are neuroquantum adepts and beyond space-time categories entirely. All these estimates are approximations. The newer circuits, neurosomatic bliss, neurogenetic Atman consciousness, metaprogramming reality games, non-local cosmic awareness, must have some function. We can only assume they are preparing us for our new situation in spacetime, after space colonization, after longevity and immortality, and after the acceleration factor accelerates even faster. Engineers rate an engine in revolutions per second. Looking at human history in terms of this metaphor, we clearly see that in the Old Stone Age, the acceleration factor was just slowly beginning to operate. We could estimate change then in perhaps revolutions per 10,000 years. With the Neolithic Revolution, the urbanization soon after the pace began to pick up. We can speak from that point on in terms of revolutions per millennium. After Galileo, revolutions per century came the normal rate of change. In this century, we have moved into revolutions per generation. We're now obviously moving into an acceleration of revolutions per decade. By the time the consciousness revolution peaks, the longevity pill is widely available, cloning is normal, and all the ideas in this book, including the most wild and radical ones, seem quaint and old-fashioned. In other words, about 2005. We will probably be growing accustomed to thinking in terms of revolutions per year. There is no reason to accept the tunnel reality of this book as final. If you really understand the message, you will invent a bigger and better future than I have suggested. As Barbara Marx Hubbard says, the future exists first in imagination, then in will, then in reality. And then there's an appendix. Oh, that's fine. It says a thing. The neurogenetic script, cyclical aspect. Number 1. The helpless infant, circuit 1. 2. The walking, struggling, competing child, circuit 2. 3. The word and tool using older child, circuit 3. 4. Imprinting conditioning the sexual circuit into domesticated parenthood. 5. Reproduction, and the cycle continues. Their weatherings and their marryings and their buryings and their natural selections. James Joyce. Finnegan's Wake. The neurogenetic script, upward spiraling aspect. 1. Primitive organisms recapitulated in infancy. 2. Vertebrate struggle recapitulated in childhood. 3. Semantic technological learning recapitulated in school. 4. Sociosexual domesticity. 5. Neurosomatic rapture precapitulating zero gravity and space migration. 6. Neurogenetic vision and precapitulating longevity immortality. 7. Metaprogramming skill precapitulating intelligence intensification. 8. Metaphysiological cosmic vision precapitulating what? It literally says that. Anyway, this has been Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. I finally finished it. Thank you and good night. Landslide 2020.